Well, hello, and welcome to Pastor's Q&A. I'm Pastor Jeremy here, and here's today's question. How can we talk to someone about expressive individualism in ways they can understand and see the silliness of it when it has become so culturally normal and is treated as unquestionable or beyond reproach? How would you discuss the idea of absolute truth in a world where individuals have walked away from any truth but the one they build for themselves? Okay, important question, big question, very relevant in our society today. So first, before I get into answering the question, let me talk about what is expressive individualism. The phrase, be true to yourself, is one no doubt you are familiar with, and that is a great way of describing what expressive individualism is. It's the idea that you have to, how do you find purpose, meaning, a sense of equilibrium in the world today? How do you find your purpose? Expressive individualism trains us or tells us that you figure out what are your deepest desires and you live those out loud. Every Disney movie tells us to do this in some way. That's the idea. That idea is deeply embedded in Western thought, Western civilizations thinking. And so, how do you help people come out of that mode of thinking? As the question asks, how do you expose the silliness of that? Well, one is, I think, on the one hand, you acknowledge how society has benefited from expressive individualism, while at the same time showing its limitations, because some of the benefits are undeniable. Expressive individualism that's existed as a thought in since the Enlightenment essentially has existed for a long time, and there's a lot of good things that have come. Things like the idea of people having individual rights or voting or free speech, things like that. That you could have a voice in society, or you could have a voice in what's happening in of the ruling parties in our society. That's a relatively new idea, and obviously that's been very beneficial and helpful for society. Well, at the same time, there's some great limitations to that thinking. Just pragmatically, if government exists to protect the rights of each and every individual, how can they actually do that without limiting the rights of others? Okay, so you cannot protect the rights of one individual without limiting the rights of another who has a different idea of what they'd like to do. When those two desires of these, let's just take two people, when they come into conflict with one another, what is the government to do? You can't protect both. Now, expand that out to millions and millions of people. It's when you're going to create a society where there's an inevitable clash. When you're trying, so governments who are operating in an expressive individualistic mindset or a liberalism, classic liberalism's mindset, come to a point where government will oppress people in the name of freedom. So it's pragmatically, it has its limitations. Now, what are those limitations? And this is where you have to go help people understand that it's not just the pragmatic limitations. It's that limitation is pointing to something far deeper. Okay, and here's the deeper issue from a Christian perspective that we got to understand, because it's not just the worldly secular people that are caught up in expressive individualism. It's all of us. It's anyone. So it's very easy for a Christian to live out their discipleship out of a thinking of, or out of rooted in expressive individualism as opposed to the gospel. And so you want to help people of all shapes and sizes and all beliefs try to understand this. So what are the limitations? The limitations are these. Expressive individualism becomes problematic when sovereignty rests in the individual instead of in Almighty God. That is the issue. That is the ultimate problem with expressive individualism, is that sovereignty rests in the desires and the intent and whatnot of the individual. That cannot long endure. It only works as if God is the one who is sovereign. Putting sovereignty in the hands of individuals inevitably leads to inconsistency and oppression, whereas treating the Christian approach is a better way. You want to show them a better way. Okay, what's the better way? Treating all people with dignity while submitting to the sovereign reign of God allows us to consistently be loving. This is why the Christian approach is better. Again, one of the pragmatic limitations that you see in society would be like something like abortion. So if the idea of protecting individual rights is all there is, and sovereignty lies within the individual, we don't have a good answer of what to do in the area of abortion. Whose rights do you protect? The rights of the mother to choose to do what she wants to do, or the rights of the child? Okay? The Christian approach is better because you treat both parties with dignity, but you surrender sovereignty to God, who in this case says murder is wrong, murder is a sin. And so God's sovereignty trumps whatever choice this mother or an individual would want to do to snuff out the life of one of God's image bearers. So you see, that's where Christianity provides a better way. The biblical thinking provides a better way. You're protecting the dignity of both, but you're surrendering sovereignty to God, who he gets the final say, not the individual. So another area where this difference can be played out recently was COVID. Okay, so when COVID-19 became a thing, what happened is a lot of governments began to limit the freedoms of people. Now, how do we react to that? How do we push back against that? Okay, if you push back against that from a mindset of expressive individualism, what are you going to do? It's not going to be as good as the Christian approach because of this. If you're defending your individual sovereignty, and that what will that do? That will send you on a sort of angered warpath rooted in pride, declaring that no one tells me what to do. So if you're pushing back against governmental mandates, saying from the mindset saying no one tells me what to do, then it's not productive. It's not helpful. Okay, the Christian approach would be different. You're going to push back, but you're going to do it from a different mode of thinking. You would do it from this mode of thinking in the Christian mindset. You want to do your part to protect the dignity of God's image bearers with a more nuanced approach rooted in love. So what you're going to do if you're walking in a Christian mindset, pushing back against the mandates and stuff, is to say, how can I treat all God's image bearers with dignity while I also try to, so I want to protect freedoms and such, but I'm also not going to demonize those. I'm going to treat with dignity those who are the ones that are doing the things I don't like, right? Very different. Where one is that you're operating in pride, which is always destructive, versus, and if you have a society based on everyone operating out of pride and bitterness and in a combative spirit, it's not going to allow that society to long endure. However, if you're going about it with love and you're just without anxiety, without fear, without any of those things, you're just trying to do the most loving thing you can to protect all God's image bearers, it will open up the opportunity for you to be productive in those in the way you go about it. And I think that's a better way. So helping people, using examples like that to try to help folks understand it, hopefully would draw them out of that. Another part of the question had to do with individual or a truth, absolute truth. How do people understand truth? One of the inevitable outcomes of expressive individualism is that everyone gets to make up their own truth. Truth is no longer objective. Truth is subjective. So everyone has their own truth. So how do you help people be drawn out of that? Well, postmodern thought or expressive individualistic thought says that exclusive truth claims are wrong. Okay, that's one of the things that you see happening in postmodern society. But in doing so, they commit the very sin they are decrying. So you just expose that. If someone says, hey, listen, you're saying that you're making an exclusive truth claim, okay? In the case that often shows up is Christians saying Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, okay? And then someone say, hey, you don't get to do that. Who's to say that other faiths don't have a valid claim on truth? What you're doing is wrong. Now, what are they doing by saying that? They're saying your exclusive truth claim is wrong, and I'm telling you it's wrong. Well, they're doing the exact same thing. So you try to help them see how they are doing the very thing that they're saying is wrong. Now, people won't necessarily always react well to that because you're accusing them of doing the thing that they would see as the ultimate sin, but helping them also just look at society as a whole. No one's really living as if all truth claims are valid. I mean, just look at how combative things are right now. That's because it's not a group of people saying, hey, everyone should be doing what they want to do. No, it's a lot of people saying what you're doing is wrong and villainizing the other side. So no one's really doing it. thinking individual can actually live in life without making some kind of exclusive truth claim. So helping them expose that, but not in the mindset of winning a debate or winning an argument, but doing it with grace and truth. On all these things, coming alongside people in grace, with love, letting them know that you are for them, but trying to show them a better way. That's the motivation. If you're trying to beat them down with an argument showing that you're right and they're wrong, you're not going to do anyone any favors. You're not going to win any friends. You're not going to make society better. But trying to consistently try to help people find a better way and seek a better way yourself, walking in grace and truth, that'll help in the long run. All right. So hopefully that helps. A couple books that are really helpful in understanding expressive individualism. One is Carl Trueman's book, The Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self. Also David Koiz's book, Political Visions and Illusions, also a great read. So have a good one. Until next time.